We now move on to the next of our presentations, and we have a couple of people this time. We have a double team of... most people will know these gentlemen, especially this big dude. He's one of the awesomest guys in our Australian time zone community, supports all sorts of initiatives, including obviously the CEO of Van Diemen's Demise. So a big welcome to Dark Razer, Renton Brax. Hello.
One sec. Talking into my water doesn't help much.
Yeah.
All right, welcome. We're going to give this presentation. We've called Where is My Fleet? I pinged like 50 times. And it is about leadership in Eve. Which button?
Maybe the one with a little arrow.
Technology scares me.
Actually, is my zip done up? Sorry. I'm Dark Razer. I've been playing Eve on and off since about 2003. I started getting really serious about it in 2009 when I joined Van Diemen's Demise, and I've had a string of failures there. Actually, pretty much every campaign, like major campaign I've ever been involved with, I have lost. Except for Providence. We third-party Providence very successfully, so yeah. And I still have dudes in my corp, so I must know something about leadership, I guess.
All right, so... this was stolen from the internet, and I better note that this isn't our work. Everyone's probably still a little bit hungover. I know there's a few people at the back especially that are probably hiding from the light. So first of all, I'm just going to get everyone to stand up. Stand up.
Go on. We'll name and shame you.
All right, so just going to do a bit of a stretch. Everyone just hold your hands up in the air. Stretch up high. That's it. Tilt your head back and breathe deep. Try and get rid of those alcoholic fumes coming out. Now, bend forward and reach down. See if you can touch your toes. Those who can touch their belt. Now turn to stay standing. Stay standing. I didn't say sit down. Turn to the person to the left of you. Say hi. Yeah.
You've got people talking to each other's back of their heads. That's awesome.
Yeah. I've planned this out really well. All right, so we're going to cut that bit. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to see who is the newest leadership team in this room. So if you are a member of a leadership team, I want you to remain standing. And that includes FC, POS manager, logistics manager, whatever the mining people have for leadership. All right. Now, if your corporation is less than a year old, stay standing. All right, so we've got a few. That's good. If your corporation is less than 6 months old, stay standing. All right, that was easy. Oh, sorry. Stand up on the chair. All right, so 6 months, so 5 months. Oh, so it's you. Is no one else standing? No other shorties standing up? All right. So what's your name?
Kaya.
And what do you do? What's your corporation do?
Well...
Just briefly, like kind of what area of Eve do you work in?
We're living in a wormhole at the moment, and we are going to move in the direction of more PvP.
Excellent.
Sorry, how do I spell that, by the way?
What's the name of your corporation?
Yeah.
Dark Tranquility.
Dark Tranquility. T-R-A-N. Q's the one that's like a backwards P. All right, so how's it all going? How's you've got a few members?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Yeah, is it going all right? You guys are getting out there, getting some activities done?
Not yet.
Not yet? So not doing too much? Have you got much in the way of resources to provide for the corp? Yep, do you have a corp wallet going?
Yeah.
How much have you got in your corp wallet? Nothing? Anyone? Less than a bill?
Less than a bill?
Yeah. Yeah, just rough figures. So yeah, so you're just starting out, so you haven't got much.
So, how much was that? How much?
I think they need to check their wallet. So whatever you had now, you now have 10 bill plus that. All right, so that should get you a few ships to get into that PvP. Use that for resources for the members. Don't drop corp and take all the money. Although that's a good thing to do sometimes, probably bad in this situation.
Try not to blow it all on hats.
All right, so moving on.
Oh, so did we skip a slide?
No.
Oh, so who should pay attention to this slide, to this presentation? If you want to do anything more than hit F1, or hopefully stop bumping the Titan, then you should probably pay attention. If you are in Alliance Leadership, Corporation CEOs, FCs, you can read the things up there. If you want to run mining operations, basically anything more than just being another scrubbing fleet, this is probably something you should pay attention to. That was specifically directed at you.
All right, so what is leadership? Well, there's a definition up there for you, because dictionaries are always good to start. Pay attention to the words influencing, group, and common goal. They are the three things you need to be an effective leader. If you don't have influence, then you're not being a leader. If you don't have a group of people, then you're an individual and you can't lead yourself. And if you don't have a common goal, you'll find it very hard to actually lead people towards something. So my theory on leadership is a little bit unorthodox for the military. I don't believe it's standing on top of a tank waving your sabre as you charge towards the Russian front. I believe it is a much more subtle approach, which we're going to go through in this presentation. It is the sum of all of your actions. It is not necessarily anything you do or say, and it's not that rousing speech. It's all the little things you do behind the scenes to provide for your player base. And that reinforces substance before style. So you can be awesome at giving an arousing speech, but if you can't back it up...
Arousing? Is that really the right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not going to question it.
If you can't back it up, then you're going to lose, or your players are going to lose faith in you very quickly. So you need to support before you lead, and that takes resources. Or it takes manpower to put all the mechanisms in place so people can do what they want to do, which should be what you want them to do in the game. So then you can ask yourself, what kind of leader are you? Do you want to be like the Mittani? Do you want to be like Vince Strachan? Do you want to be like Dark Razer? Yeah. All three very different styles of leadership there. But the one thing they've all got in common is they set up their players for success through their actions behind the scenes. You want the clicker?
Oh, you can click it. So, EVE's been called a sandbox many times, but it's my big belief that EVE, at its heart, is a social sandbox. CCP give us a great framework to work with, but the reason I log in is the players that I play with, the guy next to me.
I feel loved.
Not you guys, faulty. And yeah, that's why we play. I mean, this is a fantastic example. All of you guys and girls, sorry, have come to EVE Down Under, and that's a fairly social experience for most of you. So I'm hoping that you agree with that. There's some fantastic examples of good leadership in EVE Online, and I think the best example of that is going to be the Mittani. Most of you will have a bit of an idea about his story. He started with Rifters and from something awful and now owns all of EVE. There's some really good examples of bad leadership as well, and my good friend Sword Dragon. Actually, who here was in the HBC? There's some test dudes around. You guys are in the HBC. Yeah, okay. HBC was the Honey Badger Coalition. It actually was slightly bigger than the CFC for a little while, and the guys that made it, Pandemic Legion, decided to step back, and they were looking for someone to take over. Sort Dragon put his hand up, and things didn't go so well. It went from 40,000 members to 20,000 members, and yeah, I mean, he's learnt from his mistakes, but that's got to be a pretty good example of not so good leadership.
All right, so the first thing you need to be cognizant of when you're in a leadership position is the dynamics of how a team forms. And those in new corporations are probably seeing this right now. So this is a fairly standard way of looking at it. Forming, storming, norming, and performing. So forming, that's when your group first gets together. Or, on a smaller scale, every time you have a new member join, you will see this process occur. Storming, this is when you're getting used to each other and you're learning to communicate. Essentially, it's when people realise they don't like someone and they don't want to work with them, and it causes a lot of friction. And this is a place where most teams will collapse if the leadership are not monitoring it and trying to essentially oil the gears to remove that friction. You then move into norming. And this is where you've learnt to communicate with each other. You know the guy that you don't like, but you can still work with him. And the personalities essentially have resolved. So you know who each person is, and you know how they're going to react in certain situations. You know what things not to say to them, or in the case of a lot of corps in EVE, you know the things to say to them to piss them off. And then finally, you'll move into performing. Once that is fully consolidated, you will start to perform. And that is where everyone understands what they need to do to get to that goal, and they will move forward together to do that, which ultimately at the moment I think is just dunking hero.
Apex of EVE, right there. So moving that into EVE, how does that work in the EVE example? Forming is a little bit different. Renton works in the army and his guys are paid to be there. We play EVE Online and we pay to be there. So that forming is more about setting a goal, creating a narrative for your corporation or your fleet or whatever you're trying to do. That can be as complex as we want to piss in everyone else's cornflakes. That's not really that complex. Or as simple as we're going to take these pods because we want to make a lot of money off the moon goo. Storming. It's always an exciting period, taking out a new fleet and learning how the FCs communicate when they're actually mad at you, despite their swearing. In fact, different fleets have different ways of doing this. I think there's some Agony guys. There we go, some Agony guys over here. If I remember correctly, no one's allowed to say the J word except the FC, right? Yeah, they're literally twitching when I jump.
Can I have a go? Can I try?
And you know, that's creating how you're going to communicate with your fleet and normalising that. It's also explaining why players should do the things they do. So before CCP ruined all their fun, we used to jump capitals around the place quite a lot. And before we did a big move operation or whatever, we would tell our guys, hey, we really need you to fit cap fit, and then we'd jump. And inevitably there'd be one guy who wasn't cap fit, and then we have 200 dudes waiting on this one guy who hasn't been cap fit. So it's really important when you give instructions or when you say, hey, we need to go and do this, is explain why this is important. This isn't just me being a douchebag. I need you to fit cap so we're not waiting around on you, or we're not going to DD you as we move on. Norming. That's refining those tactics. I think a really good example from myself as an FC is when I first started running AHAC fleets, I was quite bad at probing, and we would ping off and then sit there for about 5 minutes while I figured out the probing screen so we could ping back down. As I learnt, I got a little bit better at that, and now we only spend about 2 minutes at pings. But that also applies to fleet members as well, is teaching your fleet members how they can be more efficient in fleet, when they should broadcast. So you need to broadcast when you're yellow blocks, not when you're at half structure.
Really?
Yeah. Not you, Renton, you're fine. And then finally, dunking hero. But all of this is pre-medicated, whatever. It's based on communication.
All right, communication. You can't do anything without it, and if there's any communications professionals, the IT guys as well, in the crowd, they will have seen this before. This is the basis of all communication: encode, send, decode. And if any one of those falls over, communication will fail. So, I'll check my notes. What this means is that you can't just jump on comms and say, hey, I need you to do this, and then drop back down to your Archage channel. You need to make sure that the message has been understood. And that is the same way, regardless of the method you use to send it, be it your forums, email, on voice comms, sending a text message, if you're not getting the feedback that they understand it, then you've failed at communication. And I just said it, there's only one way to do this.
Are you counting in your head right now?
Yeah, there's 11.
Okay.
What am I now? Yeah, I did 11. All right, so feedback, what does that mean? Well, it means you need to confirm that shit. You need to get in there and make sure that they understand not just what you've said, but what your intent is. What did you actually want them to do? And if they come back and say something along the lines of exactly what you just said, then that's not feedback. That is a verbatim recital of the order. It does not display understanding of what they actually need to do. Haven't you?
Oh, I should have been over here with my notes. Right, so communication happens on several levels as well. So Renton was just talking about fleet communication, but this also applies to strategic communication. I know we have at least one BNI guy in here. There he is, good man, good man. So about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, Brave Newbies decided that they wanted to create a new station in E1 TAC 4, which is in Catch. And we saw some, we were reading your mail. We saw some very exciting emails running back and forwards from the corporation CEO that was super excited about dropping a Caldari station. I don't know why he would drop a Caldari station, but let's move on. He had guys organised with freighters and jump freighters, and he got his corp all organised, and then he put the egg down about 2 hours before downtime, and he jumped some freighters in, and he had some carriers on standby, and then NC hot dropped him and killed all his carriers, and then we hot dropped him, and then he started screaming to the Alliance leadership, please come and save my egg. That was the first they'd heard about it. Not so good. We would have killed it anyway, but let's move on. Also at a tactical level, let's move that scale down a little bit, just to scouting. This is a bit of a story from 2009 when we used to live in Providence, and we were flying Drakes, which we did, and we were gate camping and trying to kill the CVA guys that were understandably trying to take back their space. We had a guy on the other side of the gate telling us what was going to come through. He decided he wanted to go and have a smoke. He didn't tell anyone about it. The CVA guy jumped through, and then a lot more CVA guys jumped through, and we all died and went back to the station. And moving on about Scouts, actually, only a week ago after CCP ruined our fun with jump drives, we were taking a super capital fleet through some Stargates, and I said to one of the guys, hey, can you please just go to the next gate and make sure there's no bubbles that would kind of ruin our day warping 20 supercaps into a bubble. He did that. We went through the gate, and then we aligned to the next one, and I didn't hear anything, so we warped to the next gate. 100 kilometres off the gate, stuck in a bubble with 20 supercapitals, with Gorgon Empire forming Titans to try and DD some of our capitals. Not the best thing, and that was my failure. I didn't make it clear to him, and I didn't have the normalised terminology to say, hey, I need you to say +1 at all times. He just went, yeah, okay, no problems. I didn't actually get a confirmation, yes, you understand what I want. And, whoops, I'm really bad at computers, sorry. And that was going on with what Renton was talking about with the feedback. Feedback is, I think, the most important thing of EVE, and it's something I really try and encourage in my fleets and in my corporation, and that's encouraging guys to speak up. Not always in the middle of a fight, but before we leave the station, they should be able to speak up and say, hey, I'm not sure how I should fit my ship. I don't have the right modules. Can anyone help me? what else have we got here? Oh, all of our logistics are out of cap boosters, so we can only rep you for half as much. That's usually a pretty important thing to know as a fleet commander. So yeah, feedback's super important, and encouraging that is a good thing.
Okay, so I'm sure everyone here is experienced when someone has gone AFK for a while and suddenly there's a gap in the corporation capability. So if your logistics director goes AWOL, if the guy that fuels your POSs goes away, there is a problem. And what that is about the deficiency, or if you're a bit more proactive about it, which you should be, is finding that lack of redundancy in every position that you have. In the military in particular, every person understudies the next rank up, so if that person becomes a casualty, you can step into that position, and that happens a fair bit. Not just becoming a casualty, but if they go away on course, it's true. If they go away on a course or something like that, or they disappear for a while. For example, I am mid-level in my career, and the one up from me ended up getting deployed, and I stayed back. And suddenly I had 120 men and several $1 million worth of equipment that I needed to make sure was maintained and the men were well administered and the like back here in Australia. And the only reason I could do that is because that redundancy is built into our system. So, to put that in terms of how it happens, the first thing you need to do is, once you've identified that deficiency, is assess what skill set is required. And in EVE that's easy because we have skill queues and we can use that. Then you need to look at the personality as well. If you're looking for like a Diplo, do they have the personality to be a Diplo? Are they good at communication in that way? Do they have the trust to give them the roles they need to do their job as well? That's probably a big point. Do you trust them? All right, so once you've got that down, you've got the people that have the skills, then you need to screen them. So look at them in a bit more vigorously and speak to them and see if they want to do the job. Not everyone wants to be in a leadership position, and that's okay. And once people have agreed that they want to do something, then you do their initial training. And this is the person who's in that role should be talking to that person and running them through exactly what it is they do. How to fuel POSs, how to set up an efficient jump route for your logistics, how to FC is a big one. Sort of start building them up into that position you need. And then once they have the base of knowledge, you then need to give them the job and sit back and mentor them through it. And this means letting them make the mistakes. It's a big one. Let them make mistakes and then talk to them afterwards and draw out how they can improve it for next time. And what you get then is proficiency. Suddenly you've got 2 people that can do that job. Once you have 2 people that can do that job, you can start that cycle all over again. Get that person now to find someone else that they can train into that position. And you'll create a cycle where you will constantly have all the roles you need filled, and you will have depth of redundancy. So if multiple people go away, or if everyone is suddenly at EDU, there still will be people to fuel that POS or pay the SOV bill while there is no one else there.
Right, so I want to turn that on its head a little bit, and instead of talking about someone from a leadership perspective wanting to bring someone else up, is actually talk from someone who wants to go and do one of the things. I get this question asked of me all the time. People say, Dark Razer, I would like to start FCing. That screening process for us is a little bit different. We get this question asked all the time, and I've got to say the very best first step for that is just to stop asking and start doing. And I don't mean even start taking out fleets. FCs, whether you be a mining operation FC or running super capitals or running rifters, are probably going to ask people, hey, I need a scout to go and do this for me. I need someone to go get me a sino. Don't need sinos anymore. I'm going to need someone to anchor our logistics. I'm going to need some probing alts to come with this. Can we get that organised? If you want to get into this stuff, you need to be Johnny on the spot. You need to be out there doing it. You're going to be working with the FCs, you'll get to know how they work things, you'll get dragged into command channels, and it won't be long before they're asking you, hey, I've got to deal with this side of the fleet, can you please deal with that side of the fleet? Talking about, I think it was, I can't remember exactly what the point was because I'm pretty bad with memory as well as words. Yeah, the path to FC greatness is paved with countless whelps. That's the next step, and that's something we really try and encourage in Van Diemen's Demise, which I'm sure most of you will be aware of if you've ever had a look at our kill board. It's not very good. We're completely fine with guys taking out roams and getting everyone killed. That is not a problem.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah. And I'm a lot more excited about losing a fleet than I am about winning a massive fight. If I've lost a fleet, that means there's something I can learn. That means I can go back and dissect that. And we certainly try and encourage, excuse me a second, I forgot the word. Encourage a culture of self-evaluation and constructive criticism.
Does anyone else feel like they're at a work conference now?
Sorry. What that means is on the flight home in our pods, we will talk to each other and we'll dissect the fight. We'll actually go through and logistics, how did you do? How were you catching reps? Were you guys getting jammed out? And just destruct the fight down to its smallest parts.
Noting that if you are going to do a debrief, you need to make sure you have the appropriate audience. If you have a lot of line members and a new FC, and they're all a bit fickle with him because they don't quite know him and they don't want to lose their ships, and you haven't got SRP set up, then best not to debrief him in front of, or her, in front of everyone. Get them privately to do that, because what you don't want to do is have the line members lose faith in an emerging FC, because then they won't join his fleet and he just won't want to do it anymore. Okay, so grind every night. Leadership in EVE, I see it as probably one of the most pure forms of leadership there is, because there is no enforced behaviour. You can't charge someone and take away their weekend if they don't do what you tell them to do. And initially this may seem really easy when you're starting up and you're doing a lot of the fun activities and the grind really hasn't kicked in. People are going to want to be joining your fleets or your mining fleets or scanning down wormhole chains and the like. But it's not until the grind becomes more frequent than the fun that you really need to step up your part in leadership. Now, leadership versus coercion. Coercion is not influencing people, it's forcing them to. It does have its place in leadership. You can coerce someone to do something, but it's not sustainable. If people aren't doing what you need them to do to maintain your operations, use a bit of coercion, but note that if you do it too much in EVE, they're just going to think you're a dickhead and they're going to stop logging on to your fleets and they're going to stop listening to your instructions. Now, that means that they'll become unsatisfied with their gameplay, and there's only one thing worse than an unsatisfied player is an unsatisfied director when they decide to leave Corp, steal your Corp wallet and drop SOV, all because you force them to do something one too many times. You've got to know your culture. You've got to know what your players expect. You've got to know what they think is appropriate and inappropriate. If you don't and you act out of line, be it the appropriateness being bad stuff or good stuff, words are hard.
That was really
clear. Really descriptive. If you act out of line to that, then they're going to start losing respect for you, and they're going to, again, start to question your leadership ability and question your position. And at all times, have in the back of your head that EVE players log in for fun. If you've got one guy who has the only jump freighter and he's constantly moving stuff out, you need to find some respite for him. You need to get him, train someone up to do that position. Because if that's all they're doing, they're going to stop having fun and they're going to leave. And you're going to lose a capability because of that. And you may lose your whole purpose and your ability to achieve your goal from that one person.
So going back to high tempo ops a little bit, and some of the stuff we've been involved in, such as droning the entire drone regions twice. It's really important to break down those nightly countless ops into two different zones of operation. And the first one is up there, and that's chill zone. That's when you guys are chilling out in fleet, posting horrible links in fleet, telling jokes with each other. I think Test did this really well. They actually had movies streaming, or there's some YouTube sharing web apps out there you can do. Everyone's having a good laugh. Yeah, we're shooting a structural, repping a structural, or whatever the case may be, but everyone's relaxed. But you do need to develop that quick switch. So from going from that chill zone to serious business again, hey, we just got hot drop, there's a sino, whatever. In Van Damme's Demise, it's usually FC break or something along those lines, but everyone has a different way of doing things. As Renton said, Eve isn't the job, and no one's getting paid for Eve, I guess except for Logibro and the other CCP guys. So no one else is getting paid for Eve. And if you want your guys to log in and girls logging in every night, you do need to make it fun for them. You need to give them a reason for logging in. And I think CFC does this amazingly. Their narrative is fantastic. Whether it's taking siege bombers out, which is the most soul-depressing thing I know of. But they do it, and they have a really good story behind it. Hey, we're doing this to go annoy these guys, or hey, we're grinding these positives because we want money, whatever the case may be. Selling that narrative, I think, is super important.
Change.
Is that it?
No, I'm pressing buttons. Oop.
It's
Okay,
change you.
Swing this. You cannot stop change. That is absolute. You cannot stop it. So you need to be able to deal with it when it happens. Now, I had to think long and hard about this, is how exactly do we deal with change? And I came up with a solid 4 ways you can look at it. Well, you can't look at it because the slide's not working, but you can listen to it. The first one is you can adapt to it. So when change happens for any reason, you can change the way you lead so you fit the situation. Now, the positive of this is it doesn't take any leadership to do that. It's very easy. The negative to that is it doesn't take any leadership, and it's very easy. So people will look at you and see that you haven't actually done anything for them in this situation, you're just going with the flow. The second way you can look at it is to embrace it. Now that is to accept the change is happening and maintain your position as a leader, but follow the change through. And that's good when there's some things that you just can't change or you can't affect, such as CCP changing out certain mechanics. There's nothing you can do about that, so you need to embrace it. So the good thing about that is it makes you appear like a very easygoing leader and a good personality to be around. People are generally happy with that. The bad thing about that is that goals will be very hard to accomplish. You'll find it very hard to direct people towards anything in particular if you're constantly embracing every small change that happens. Third way, you can guide. Battery's about to go dead.
Sorry?
We get a power source up here.
Oh, that's going to be disappointing.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So you can guide it. You can attempt to guide change, the change that's happening, back towards the goal that you want. This is very difficult to accomplish because you're trying to take an uncertain factor and turn it into a certain. Which, if anyone can do that, if anyone has actually done that, I would love to hear about it. I've never actually seen anyone successfully guide change back around to what they originally wanted to do. The good thing about this is it's very subtle and it often won't get in the way of friendships. You don't need to be a dick about it to get it to happen. The bad thing about it is if you do it too often, you may appear manipulative. If you're constantly trying to guide people and suggest the way people do things, people may look at you as if you're constantly, they will realise you're trying to influence them in that way, but you're not being forthright about it.
Would you like this slide there? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry guys, we're really good at this.
And the final way you can go about it is you can direct change. This is where you identify that you need to change what is happening in order to achieve your goal, and you say, this will change. You will do this without question. The good thing about this is that gets shit done. It's very, very easy to enact. But the bad thing about it, again, if you do it too often, you will appear very authoritative, and people will feel like they're being coerced rather than influenced.
You. Right, there we go. So who knows what that is? It's fatigue. Sorry, fatigue. Most of you will probably know that CCP just introduced a small patch called VB that kind of screwed us a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of bragging about VDD to give this some relevance. Van Diemen's demise, our number one goal was to be the biggest super cap fleet in the Australian time zone. We did that pretty well. We have more super capitals and titans than actual players behind keyboards. We could cross the map rapidly. We can get from M5Y in Venal to HLW and Curse very rapidly. It would cost us 10 billion in topes to move everything, but we could do it pretty quickly. And in a month of high tempo grind ops, we would easily spend 30 billion just in isotopes, to give you some idea. So our whole gameplay revolved around using capitals and super capitals, and CCP didn't like that very much, so they changed it. So we had a pretty significant problem. The way we were playing the game is going to have to change, and we dealt with it a couple of different ways. To start with, we really embraced that change. We sat down, we thought, hey, how is this going to change our gameplay? Okay, we can't get across the map. But it also means we're safer. We don't have to worry about Faulty 7 forming up dreadnoughts to come and kill our stuff anymore because he can't get across the map either. Wherever we are in space, we have a lot more influence over that area of space. We have a lot more freedom. We can do super capital roams. That's cool. We tried to guide the change, and we're still working on this. Most of our player skills, not in-game skills, were aimed towards using super capitals and titans and all the rest of it, and we were quite good at it. Unfortunately, if we hear about a fight that's 30 jumps away, we're not going to take those that far because it would take us way, way too long. So we're developing, or trying to, develop our subcapital skills a lot more, and we're encouraging more and more FCs to take out fleets. I think Phobe's changed this quite a lot. We're going to have guys out there with their eyes on the ground telling us what's going on. And finally, we also had to direct the change. We had to make some pretty serious directives to our guys on how they were going to fit their super catapults now with hyperspatial rigs and that sort of thing. Next slide.
All right, so that brings us to the end of this presentation. As some of you may be asking, but guys, isn't leadership about yelling at scrubs? You didn't teach us how to yell at scrubs. Well, I can teach you how to yell. I'm very good at yelling. In particular, I am artillery, and I am used to yelling over some very, very loud equipment. But it's not going to do you any good. You can yell at someone as much as you want. But if you don't have that foundation in leadership, that yelling isn't going to achieve anything because they won't respect you, they won't consider you their leader, and they'll just log off, turn off comms. So, some points to take away. Remember that teams take time to build, and be aware of the friction as they do. And you'll need to provide lubrication for this friction. There was no way I could not say that word then. to try and make it easier so you can get into the norming then performing stage. Get through that storming and it's smooth sailing from there. Be aware of your environment. There is no right way to be a leader, but if your members have standards, either high or low, then you need to meet those standards. It worked. All right. Finally, remember, leadership isn't any individual thing you do. It is the sum of all of your actions, especially those actions that probably go unnoticed by the rest of your corporation. And most of all, make it fun.
And we might have some time for questions, Mr.
I don't know, I think we've got... How are we going?
I don't know.
Thank you, guys. A big round of applause to these two gentlemen. We'll do questions. Yeah, we'll do questions. Okay, what we're going to do is, obviously this is a lot of information, really cool stuff about how to do stuff in Eve. So what we'd like to do now is, if you've got some questions from these two illustrious gentlemen, you can come up to this microphone as we did before and go nuts. So questions from the floor.
We're happy to awkwardly stand up here for a while. It doesn't mind.
We will stand here for 10 minutes and stare at you.
So you're not using your supers anymore?
Can we go to the mic, please?
I'm sorry,
Come on, you can do it.
Come on, mates. No, I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't go that far.
The reason we're keen to get people to the microphones, because that will go onto the recordings, because we didn't actually mention that. This isn't being streamed live, in part because we wanted to have this as a bit of an exclusive event. You need to come to it to get the fun of it, in part because we... stuff. But anyway, if we want people to come to the microphone so that it gets recorded on the video recordings, and that will be made available later for everybody else. So yeah, that's why we want you to come to the mics.
Hi.
So just a smart ass question.
Who are you?
I'm Arcades from the Black Legion.
Hey, mate.
Black Legion. Go Black Legion. Now that you're not using your supers anymore, whereabouts are they staged?
In HLW.
Okay, nice. Second question. Have you ever met Space Chutney or come across Space Chutney? He doesn't actually fit your leadership model. And when he stopped logging in, people logged out. Would you have any sort of comments on the way?
I'm not aware of this person.
Okay. He was Inc. Leadership Inc.
Was he in Darkness or Kandeshi, right?
So,
No, it was Unthinkables.
So, what you're saying is he didn't do any work in the background to support his members.
Oh, no. He did plenty of work in the background to support members, but...
Okay, that is my leadership
Oh,
model.
okay, right.
So, however you appear to people, however you stand up and talk to people and give your arousing speeches and the like, that is just the surface. You need to go deeper.
I'm so ashamed.
But no matter how you appear, you can be quietly spoken and the like, and very friendly, such as Dark. You can rage at people like Vince does. That's all irrelevant and pointless if you haven't done that base support to begin with. If you're not supporting them, then they're not going to respect your position. And however you appear on top of that is entirely up to you.
Mr. Razer, can you describe for us the leadership process you went through when you made Bongi head Diplo?
I got sick of him asking.
Hey dudes,
What's up?
I'm too short. So I'm just wondering if you guys have any opinions or maybe some comments on why you think some people might be more prone to leadership compared to others.
I don't. I disagree with that entirely. There is a very strong voice out there amongst the leadership community, in particular the military, which believes that leadership is a trait that you're born with. And I disagree with that entirely. Before I joined, I'm still very quiet generally. I was incredibly quiet, incredibly shy, and not very outgoing at all. And the training that we underwent gave me the confidence to take these leadership positions. I think that anyone can have that, and that falls out of what I presented just here, is that you may have a hard time standing up in front of people and talking, but if you're providing the support for players in particular to do what they want to do, then they're going to listen to you and they're going to be accommodating to your personality and what makes you comfortable in guiding them forward. Leadership, and there's someone here who will disagree with me quite strongly, Gorgoff and Darky, or Honest Gorgs. Leadership has an opposing side, which is followership, which is because for someone to lead, someone needs to willingly follow. And I think with the support structure, people are willing to follow other people, and you will just fall into a leadership position regardless of how you go about your appearance and your persona.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think Eve probably backs it up pretty well. There's some people out there that you wouldn't, in real life, you would not consider them leaders in any way, shape or form. So yeah, I don't think there's any limits to it, and I think it's more of a learnt skill than anything else.
How do you find people who sort of fall into those leadership roles, who basically fall into it through necessity because no one else is stepping up, sort of thing? How do you think those people gain those abilities and then support them moving forward in their own leadership style?
By making mistakes. So no one falls into it, no one wakes up, logs on and goes, oh, hang on a sec, everyone's following me. There is always a choice that they make to take that position. So they see it's empty and they're like, well, someone's got to do it, I've got to do it. So that's the first step right there. They've made the choice to go into leadership. And what they need to do then, they can get on, and no matter what they do, they will need to learn to support their player base. And if they don't do that, they will fail very quickly. And their player base also needs to be willing to accept that there are going to be mistakes, there are going to be whelps.
Cheers. Thanks.
Anything else, or are we good?
Okay, another round of applause for these good gentlemen. Thank you.